Welcome to Ulango, the best minutes of your day spent improving your English language skills. This week's episode is intended for intermediate learners. In this episode, we'll give you a sense of what you'll enjoy in every Ulango class. First, we start with the word of the day, which this time is pride. Pride can be both good and bad. In a good way, pride is a sense of self-respect. In a bad way, it is considering oneself better than other people. We also play games, which this time is a question for you to reflect on and answer. Imagine that every day before you go to your desk at the office, you stop at a mirror to fix your hair. Today, you learned that it is a one-way mirror, and your boss's office is on the other side. He can see you every day. How would you feel? Next, we move on to a story and introduce some new vocabulary. At the end, we ask you some questions to test your comprehension and to get you thinking. Today, we have a story in two parts with a set of vocabulary words for each part. Here's the first set of words. First, sculptor. A sculptor is a person who makes sculptures, that is, artwork from either stone or wood. Second, recognize. To recognize is a verb that means to remember having seen something or someone before. Maybe you've seen the word recognize before and remember it. In that case, you recognize. Third, astonished. To be astonished is to be greatly surprised. And finally, capture. To capture is to grab something or someone by force and not let go. Now for the first part of the story. It's called Pride Has a Fall. Gore was a famous sculptor. His sculptures looked very real. One day he had a dream that after 15 days, the demon of death would come to take him. Gore panicked and prepared 9 statues of himself that looked exactly like him. On the 15th day, when he heard the demon of death approaching, he took his place between the statues. The demon could not recognize him and was astonished to see 10 Gores instead of 1. He rushed back to the god of death and shared all the details. The god of death got annoyed and set out to capture Gore himself. Back to our story in a moment. Before we do that, we need to learn the second set of vocabulary words. First, motionless. To be motionless means that you are not moving at all. Second, perplexed. To be perplexed is to be very confused. Third, tolerate. To tolerate is a verb that means to allow or to accept something even if you don't like it that much. Fourth, blemish. A blemish is an unwanted mark on a surface. And finally, faultless. To be faultless is to be perfect, with no errors. Okay, on to the second part of our story. Gore was alert and stood motionless. The god of death was initially perplexed. After thinking for a moment, he said, "Gore, these sculptures are perfect except for one mistake." Gore was unable to tolerate the least blemish in his work, so he came out and asked, "Where is the fault?" God of Death caught him and said, "Here." The statues were faultless, but Gore was caught because of his pride. The end. Now, for a couple of questions for you to try to answer. First, what is the moral of the story? And second, is pride in the story described in a good sense or a bad sense of the word? Thanks for joining us. During our sessions at Ulango, this is the type of discussion we have, led by our native English-speaking coaches live on Zoom. Try your first session out free at ulango.com. That's OOLANGO.com.